I will share the book, The Fifth Vital Sign, Master Your Cycles and Optimize Your Fertility by Lisa Hendrickson-Jack. So currently I am reading the chapter on managing period pain. Let's see. Let me make it so you could see all the chapter titles. Okay. So I believe in the introduction gives a good summary about what the book is about. Chapter 1 talks about how your period is the fifth vital sign for women. Actually, let's see. For girls and women. Oh, okay. Ovulation is the fifth vital sign. Okay. And ovulation is followed by either pregnancy when the sperm meets the egg, or by period when the uterine lining sheds. What does a normal period look like? Cervical mucus. This one was really interesting because apparently there's different types of cervical mucus. So this is the area that connects to the outside, aka more commonly known as the vagina. This is the uterus, this is the cervix, and this is the mucus plug. Okay. So yeah, apparently there's different kinds of cervical fluids. Okay, let me continue sharing the chapters. What does a healthy menstrual cycle look like? Let me see. Okay. Chapter 4. So here you'll be able to read more about and learn what a healthy menstrual cycle looks like. Because a majority of menstruating people, we were taught by society that because Eve sinned and tempted Adam with the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, that having painful periods is part of the curse. So yeah. So, but it's not normal to have painful periods, basically. What is fertility awareness? So I think this is where Lisa discusses how to use fertility awareness as a tool for empowerment, so you can track your cycles, know when you're fertile, know when you're not fertile, so that you don't have to take birth control pills. Because let's see, In later chapters, Lisa discusses the negative side effects of the pill. Basically, the pill makes it so that you're not able to track, like it shuts down your ovaries, so that whenever you quote unquote bleed when you're taking birth control, it's actually not real, like regular normal blood. Your body, since it's been paused, your body is not going to show you what's going on in your body. Okay, your menstrual cycle as a diagnostic tool. So it's a diagnostic tool that tells you about what's going on with your reproductive health. And if you're taking birth control or you have other methods, other than the pill, there's like intrauterine device, there's shots, patches. But yeah, those methods wouldn't show you or tell you, wouldn't allow your body to show the vital sign. The pill and your fertility. Coming off the pill, chapter 8. Chapter 9, the wisdom of your menstrual cycles. More on, how it's important to know your body, basically, as a menstruating person. Chapter 10, charting your cycles. And I saw in Amazon, Lisa Hendrickson-Jack, she has a few more books, and one of it helps you track your cycles. Improving cervical mucus production, nutrition for healthy cycles, lifestyle choices for healthy cycles, chapter 13, managing period pain. This was what I was reading because I have very painful periods, and recently, so before this last period a week ago, it was mainly just like ovary pain and just like back pain. And this past period was the worst I've experienced because I had nausea and I vomited and my belly was very distended and painful. So there was a lot of bloating on top of the pain. So that's a bit much to deal with. Managing PMS naturally. PMS is all these different, a combination of these different things. Premenstrual syndrome. Okay, let's continue with, okay. Chapter 16, restoring normal menstrual cycles. Planning ahead for pregnancy. Getting the support you need. I am going to buy this as a book, like a paper physical book, so I can like write things in it, because there's a lot of information in it and it's very readable. It's not overwhelming. Okay. Nice. So yeah, so this was a bit about, you know, on the fifth vital sign. So I guess let's let me read some, like the first chapter or something. Okay. Okay. Introduction. Let me see actually if this is, hopefully all this, okay, I'm gonna record this. Okay. Introduction. When I was a teenager, I loved sports. I played basketball and volleyball. I was a ballet dancer, and I did track and field, but my periods were extremely painful and heavy, making it difficult for me to participate. I didn't know how to control it, so I went to my doctor's office at 15 years old and asked for a prescription for the pill. I had barely uttered the words, "My periods are painful and heavy," before my doctor started writing out the prescription. And voila, my periods were light and painless. I took the pill for almost 3 years, but on some level I knew it wasn't fixing anything. I came off the pill for a few months here and there to see if my real periods were still heavy and painful, and every time I did, they were worse than before. It was clear to me that the pill wasn't solving any of my problems, and I worried that staying on the pill long term would mess up my fertility. I grew up thinking I might have a hard time getting or staying pregnant because a number of my relatives struggled with uterine fibroids and other fertility challenges. My mother's periods, for instance, grew harder for her to manage as she got older. Her bleeding was so excessive that at times the blood would run down her legs when she stood up. Ooh. She struggled with low iron and fatigue because of the heavy bleeding, and eventually had a hysterectomy. After the surgery, one of my aunts came to stay with us, and I discovered that she had also had a hysterectomy several years prior for the same reason. I didn't know much back then, but I knew I wanted a family someday, and I also knew the pill wasn't going to fix whatever genetic predisposition for fertility problems I'd likely inherited. Although I didn't know what the solution was at the time, I was sure there had to be another way. When I needed birth control at age 19, I realized there was no way I could trust a pill to prevent pregnancy. Although I had been on the pill for a few years, I had never used it for birth control, and since I was taking the pill for medical reasons, I would often forget to take it at the same time every day. Well, I remembered to take it at all. I knew I would always be wondering if it was working, so I decided to use condoms as my primary method of birth control. It was around this time I discovered fertility awareness. The Women's Center on my university campus held regular workshops and lectures on all kinds of feminist topics. I heard that Inga Musio, author of the book C-Word, A Declaration of Independence, was coming for a book signing, so I decided to go check it out. She read several excerpts from her book, and from her I learned about a way to prevent pregnancy without relying on hormonal birth control. She described the two commonly accepted models of birth control: chemical manipulation of the hormones and barriers placed between the O's, opening of the cervix, and sperm. And then she proposed a third option. What I am about to discuss is not the rhythm method. The objective here is not to understand the rhythm of your ovulatory cycle. The objective is to tap into the rhythm of your ovulatory cycle as a means of perceiving a broader rhythm inside yourself that shows you how powerful you are every day of your life. She went on to describe the way both your cervical mucus and cervical position change around ovulation, and that was all I needed to hear. It was the very first time anyone had told me that I couldn't get pregnant on every single day of my cycle. Fortunately, the Women's Center had the resources I needed to figure out how I could really do this. I ran to the bookstore and bought Tony Westler, Taking Charge of Your Fertility, and I also discovered a local organization on campus that taught fertility awareness, the Fertility Awareness Charting Circle. I started attending their monthly meetings, and I was hooked. You won't be surprised to learn that I eventually joined the group, completed a fertility awareness education training program, and started teaching other women to chart their cycles. I was so excited to learn that I could confidently prevent pregnancy without suppressing my natural cycles. It's funny if you think about it. Most women go on the pill when they start having sex, but I did the opposite. Discovering fertility awareness was a life-changing experience for me. I finally understood exactly what was happening in my cycles. The most significant shift for me was realizing that there were only a few days of my cycle when I could get pregnant. I felt that this knowledge put the power directly into my hands, and I was no longer afraid of my fertility. As a result, I was able to avoid pregnancy naturally by avoiding unprotected sex during my fertile window. Little did I know that natural birth control was only the tip of the iceberg. I soon discovered that my menstrual cycle was not exclusively related to having babies. Learning to chart my cycles among a group of women trained in fertility awareness charting was when I first encountered the idea that my menstrual cycle is a vital sign that changes in response to the state of my overall health. When I started charting my cycles, I noticed they were typically 40 to 45 days in length. I asked my doctor what I could do to shorten them, and he told me the only thing I could do to regulate my cycles was to go back on the pill. It wasn't until my charting instructor had a look at my charts and suggested I have my thyroid levels tested that I realized how intimately my cycles were connected to my health. The testing revealed that I had a subclinical thyroid disorder, and I was able to improve my cycle parameters naturally by attending to it. It blew my mind that someone could look at my menstrual cycle charts and identify underlying health issues. My periods are normal now. I no longer experience crippling pain or excessive bleeding. My cycles are consistent, ovulatory, and well within the normal range. As I write this book, I have 2 beautiful boys, and I often wonder how different my life would have been if I had stayed on the pill all those years instead of tracking my cycles. I know that the only reason my thyroid issue was identified early is because I was charting my cycles. I have no idea how many years it would have taken to identify it if I hadn't been charting. After I had my first son, I realized that most women have no idea how their menstrual cycles work. Many are shocked to discover that when they come off the pill, it can take several months or even years for their cycles to return to normal. And most have no idea how their fertility changes with age. I once received a message from a woman whose doctor had told her, "As a young woman, you're so fertile that you could get pregnant sitting on a warm bus seat." Though ridiculous, this statement accurately describes how most young women view their fertility. Considering that most of us were taught that we could get pregnant on every day of our cycles, we spend most of our reproductive years figuring out how to not get pregnant instead of focusing on how to preserve our fertility as we get older. This book, therefore, is your shortcut. It's the book I wish I had when I started down this path nearly 20 years ago. In this book, you'll gain the tools to not only understand your cycles, but to start healing them. You'll discover connection between the health of your cycles and your overall health and fertility. You'll discover why your menstrual cycle matters, whether or not you plan to have children. I wrote this book because you deserve better. And since I haven't yet figured out how to get this information included in the standard curriculum of every school across the world, I figured this book is the next best thing. By the time you finish reading this book, you'll wonder why every woman doesn't already know these things. Don't worry, when I first discovered fertility awareness, I felt the same way. Now it's your turn. Are you ready? Okay. So it's been almost 22 minutes. I will end the reading here, and I will continue making videos discussing the 5th vital sign. But yeah, this is an introduction for what's to come